So I just played Persona 5 Royal, a Jehuty Gaming review. Hey guys, Jehuty here, and to be honest, I beat Persona 5 Royal last summer, but started it up again and thus wanted to bring out my thoughts as a review. The original Persona 5 launched back in 2017 and was developed by P Studio from Atlas. This new, more royal version packs the base game with some new tweaks, a lot of bonus content with an all-new playable epilogue chapter into its definitive form. Please enjoy my review. In Persona 5 Royal, you take up the mantle of the protagonist that is supposed to be you, aka Joker in his alter ego form. After trying to help a woman being forced by a man, the tables turn and you are charged with assault. Expelled from your school and forced to leave your hometown, you're now accepted at Shujin Academy in Tokyo and have to be constantly reminded that you have a criminal record due to that incident. On your first day of school, you and a fellow student of Shujin Academy, Ryuji, wind up in a distorted castle instead of the school, where things are seriously twisted. After being caught and almost killed, Joker awakens to his persona powers and him and Ryuji make a break for it. Searching for a way out, they bump into a humanoid cat-like creature insisting not to be called a cat, named Morgana. They strike a deal to escape the castle, and Morgana later explains what's going on, and that the castle is part of the metaverse, an alternative version of reality given form through desires. If those desires are strong enough and twisted enough, then the individual creates a subconscious alternative space from their mind called a palace. From here on out, you find out that the castle's tormented slaves are linked to happenings in the real world. It's not long before more people join your outfit and you form the Phantom Thieves that dissolve these palaces by stealing the treasures within them. This prompts the palace ruler to have a change of heart as they have their twisted desires stolen from them. So as you go on, you meet more characters to interact with and palace rulers whose treasures you want to steal. It's not long before you realize that there's something bigger at play here, and that some of the palace rulers and real-life incidences are somehow connected to one another. If you fulfill certain conditions, then after the original ending, a new epilogue chapter is unlocked. The new content is awesome and totally worth it, even if you've already played through the original Persona 5. The additional content also adds a new villain and honestly the most epic of showdowns, even topping the original's showdown. I don't want to give too much away, but you're definitely emotionally invested and you're really asking yourself if you're the hero or the villain. Unfortunately, it's not canon as Persona 5 Strikers has shown us. As much as I like the story, I have some gripes with it, especially in terms of pacing and padding. For starters, you begin the game by experiencing a scenario from the later part of the game. This sequence starts off bombastic and sees Joker being arrested. From there, he's in interrogation talking to a prosecutor, and then the happenings are told as a flashback till you get to that point in the story. There's also a cool payoff to this, but I still didn't like the constant flash forwards to the present in the interrogation room, especially because they add to the padding a bit. I get why they did this, as Persona 3 and 4 have a slow beginning, but the mere fact that you'll have to replay this section again later down the line makes it redundant. It is, however, very cool. Now don't get me wrong, the story is great, but sometimes it can feel like a slog to get through it. It's not helped that there is a lot of exposition on things that can be summed up in 3 sentences. Certain things are also repeated often. We aren't dummies, we can get it after the first time. Then we come to the cast of characters. I like them. Doesn't matter if it's Ryuji goofing off or Morgana protesting that he isn't a cat. However, Morgana can feel like a knockoff of Teddy from Persona 4, just not as charming. In general, the cast of Persona 5 Royal isn't as tight-knit as that of Persona 4. The other thing is that there are too many characters in your team. If you count the new content, that's 10 characters that all have their backstories and side stories as confidants. I'll get to the confidants in the gameplay section. There are many themes in this game, but the overall theme is that being an adult can destroy the goodness in you that you had as a child. As some people grow older, their desires distort and bring out the bad in them. Even the ones that can be really nice can have a twisted view of the world and the people around them buried deep within. This leads to exploitative behavior to achieve one's goals. kind of like the ends justify the means. And then in contrast to this conflict, we have the group of phantom thieves that represents the youth rebelling against the corruption of the adults. Other themes are of course the Persona staples such as accepting oneself and the power of friendship can overcome all. There are many plot twists that you don't see coming, but there's still a ton that you actually do see coming. And if the build up to them was a bit shorter, then the pacing would flow better. I mean, the game needs 125 hours to beat with the bonus content. Trimming about 10 hours of that wouldn't have hurt in the story department. It may have sounded a bit harsh at points, but I still love the story a lot. It's just that Persona 4 is a thing. As you have somewhat concluded yourself, there are two major gameplay types Persona 5 Royal is cut into, but are deeply intertwined. The introductory scene of Persona 5 Royal acts as a foreshadowing and as a tutorial all wrapped up in one. It demonstrates everything you will be doing regularly as you explore each palace. You will be jumping between platforms and sneaking through air ducts, avoiding some enemies by hiding only to ambush them when they're looking in another direction. There is also the new to Persona 5 Royal grappling hook. It's used mainly off the beaten path to find alternative routes and treasure. To utilize this to the fullest, the palaces have been changed a bit in this Royal outing, making them shine even more. One of the additions now is that whilst exploring each palace, you can collect 3 will seeds that give you accessories to equip. These are mostly well hidden or blocked off by a mid-boss. Speaking of which, let's talk about the combat system. Persona goes for a turn-based combat system in which you unleash your persona to use different elemental attacks. Joker can utilize a collection of personas due to having the skill of the wild card. He can hold a number of them at a time and switch between them in battle. 4 characters engage in a battle at a time, and you can manually take control of their actions if you so wish. Every character has their own individual persona with its own set of abilities. It helps to regularly think about the composition of your team based on what you're fighting, utilizing their skills for things like taking advantage of enemy weaknesses, healing or buffing allies. Then as another step, you also want to consider the personas Joker can bring into combat to complement that party. As mentioned, exploiting enemies' weaknesses is key to victory. It also grants you an additional turn. Combining that with managing your turns, you can steamroll your opponents. In a twist to this system, your weaknesses can also be exploited by your adversaries. If you can coordinate so that all enemies are in a down state at the same time, then you can utilize an all-out attack. This has all your characters attacking at the same time for a ton of damage. As an added bonus, it looks really stylish. New to the Royal version is also Showtime, an ultra powerful attack between 2 of your characters that has the probability of triggering if you are in a pinch, and more Showtime moves are unlocked as you progress through the story. Another change in the Royal version is that of how guns work. Now ammunition is replenished after every fight. Before, they were only refilled upon re-entering a palace, so you would conserve them as a get out of jail free card. Now they are not as powerful, but they work like an elemental attack, thus you use them far more often. I welcome this change with open arms. You're going to need all of this for the boss fights that I won't spoil here, that are a visual treat and test your understanding of the combat system. These have also been partially reworked in this version, making the fights even more tailored to the villains with some nice surprises that keep you on your toes. I really liked them apart from one difficulty spike. There was one palace that was a breeze, easier than the others, however the boss fight at the end was quite difficult for me. Going online I saw I wasn't the only one. It isn't helped that the fight has a timer countdown, something no other battle in the game has. There's also Mementos, a sprawling maze of randomly generated dungeon floors. Mementos is similar to Tartarus from Persona 3, whereas you explore by going deep down rather than going up a tower. This has also been fleshed out by introducing Jose, a mysterious boy that lives in Mementos. He tasks you with collecting flowers that you can trade at his shop for items, and collecting stamps that can give permanent stat buffs whilst you're in Mementos. It's a really nice addition as you spend a lot of time in Momentous, especially getting to the end of the game. When you're not in the metaverse, you're going about your business in the real world. This means you're going to school via the train and attending class in the mornings. You'll even be learning for exams. In the afternoons, you're left to your own devices. You can stock up on healing items, buy equipment, get a part-time job, or do stuff teenagers would do. You can also work on your social links, a very strong component of the Persona series. This is where the confidants come in. Apart from your teammates, you can also forge bonds with other characters that are available at certain locations at certain times during the week. These confidants have you following up on elaborate side stories and leveling up your connection to them. You'll want to do this because they each level up a specific Arcana class, allowing you to create stronger personas in the Velvet Room. The Velvet Room exists between the metaverse and the real world, and only Joker can enter it. It has its own set of characters that assist you in registering your collected persona or fusing 2 or more persona to create even stronger persona. Its characters are also integral to the story, and Igor acts as a guide for Joker. All of these things that I've mentioned need to be time managed. So you'll be planning out your weeks on how you want to spend your time on certain days and keeping certain deadlines in your mind, like completing a palace or writing exams. I've talked at length on what you do in Persona 5 Royal, but trust me, there's still a whole lot of things I didn't cover. There's definitely no lack of content in this game, maybe even too much. Persona 5 Royal is a heavily stylized game that nails the anime look. Some people may not like that and prefer more realistic looking graphics, but it's undeniably a great looking game. Everything in your everyday life fits nicely in the style, but where you're really treated to something special are the palaces. You can really tell the developers took their time to make them all feel different from one another, yet always fascinating you as you explore them. If no one told you that the basis of the game was built on PS3, then you wouldn't know, as the original also released on the PlayStation 3 alongside the PS4. On closer observation, you see that textures and polygon models are actually quite simple. It's so heavily stylized that you wouldn't even know, but with this, the game will age well over time. It's really an anime that has come to life. Even the menus ooze style in every corner, from checking your inventory to buying goods. The soundtrack is also top notch. It takes some time to settle in if you haven't played a Persona game, but before you know it, you're moving with the grooving of the beats. Especially the song from the new epilogue chapter titled Throw Away Your Mask is the best as you engage in the final showdown. Simply awesome. On the base PlayStation 4, the game runs at 30 frames per second and a full HD resolution. On PlayStation 4 Pro, the resolution is supposedly bumped up to 4K, thus lending itself well to be played on a PlayStation 5 via backwards compatibility, but no one knows if it's native 4K or not. The frame rate unfortunately is still capped at 30 frames per second, which it holds for the most part, but it isn't really that important for this kind of game. Overall, you're still getting treated to a masterpiece of visual and audio design. The Royal is rightly so the definitive version of Persona 5. Some may feel that it could have been DLC, but the small tweaks to the base game, the awesome new epilogue, and the little additions throughout make it well worth your time. For some, that may be too much of their time, as the game takes 125 hours to finish. I have said a lot, and this is most likely my longest review yet. But believe me when I say that certain things were glossed over or not mentioned due to the length of this review. So believe it or not, you're getting a ton of content and a good bang for your buck if you purchase Persona 5 Royal. Unfortunately, Persona 5 Royal, just like with the original version, is only available on PS4 and PS5 via backwards compatibility. Maybe in future it will come to other platforms such as PC. I put out an unboxing video of Persona 5 Strikers, and my review of that will come out soon. I also have mentioned Persona 4 a bit, so maybe I'll do a review on that in the future as well. Thank you for watching till to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. Consider subscribing because that helps me the most. Also leave a like, and and I would like to hear your thoughts in the comment section. This is Jehuty, and I'll see you on the next I Just Played review.